Welcome and great to have you join us as we go off script with Sam Monk, Senior Leader of Equippers Church. Enjoy today's podcast.
Hey, and welcome to episode 7 of Off Script with Sam Monk. My name's Jake, and it's great to be with you. We're talking about what's worked, what hasn't, and leadership lessons. And welcome back, Sam.
It's great to be back again. I hope this is helping some people. It's great to be chatting to you.
It's helping me as I listen to you talk as well, so that's been really good. But Sam, we talked last episode, and we kind of ran out of time, which is cool because there's lots of stuff to talk about. But I want to kind of take us back to possibly a sort of a half-open question that we didn't quite get around to answering. And you made the statement, you know, what are we responsible for?
Yeah.
What are we responsible for? It's a really big question, and we sort of tackled some of it last week. But that's where I want to kind of start off this week.
We talked about attitude. Yeah, we're responsible for our own attitude.
Yep.
I really believe we're responsible for our time.
Right.
You know, so many people, I'm so busy. The calendar's so full. What we're going to ask is who puts those calendar appointments in there?
You do.
Yeah. And in a way, we have no right to complain about what we permit.
Wow.
And if we don't like it, we have the ability to choose. Yeah. We have the ability to decide. And a lot of people just put up with things without recognizing that actually I can make some choices. I can reorder my life. I can shape my life. I can, live how I want to live. In life, none of us have to do anything. We get to choose the level we live at. We get to choose how we live. And I know stuff happens to people, but even in what happens to us, we didn't choose it. We get to decide our response.
Right.
And I think choice are really important. I think we're responsible also for the opportunities that are presented our way.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to give an account for that one day. And in the kingdom, I think God views waste more severely than he does failure.
Right.
But the reality is most of us are scared of failure. Right. Oh, what if I do this and it doesn't work? And I think God would say, just like the parable of the talents, is take what you have, use it, invest it, grow it. But it was the one who didn't do that, who buried their talent and wasted the opportunity. They were actually treated a lot more severely and harshly. In fact, they were called wicked and lazy.
Yeah. And
in life, we have a responsibility to actually step into those opportunities that are presented to us.
That's an interesting thought, because I can almost feel a lot of people watching this or listening to this going, they don't want to fail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
nobody does.
Nobody wants to fail. We don't set up life going, I'm going to fail at this stuff. But I wonder how much of, you talked about opportunity, we don't take advantage of the opportunities because there's maybe an insecurity around, well, I did that before and it didn't work, so I'm just not going to try anymore. Yeah. Like there's so many ways this can play out in a life, right?
I reckon we don't have a good theology on failure.
Yeah.
And I like what the psalmist said, where he said, the steps of a good person are ordered by the Lord, and God delights in his way. And it says, though he fall. Hang on, I thought you ordered my steps.
Yeah.
How come I'm falling right now?
Yeah.
And it says, though he fall, he will not utterly be cast down. There's times in life where you're going to be cast down, but here's the good news. You're not going to be utterly cast down, because it goes on and says, for he upholds them in his hand. And, nobody likes going through failure. But I think failure has a way of shaping your life if you're able to get back up and you find God in it more than even success.
And I think pain and the associated disappointment that comes with some of that stuff as well. It can't hold us back, can it? Because again, you're saying God views waste more significantly than that.
Yeah.
And we've kind of got one life to live, right? We've got one shot at this to make a difference in people's worlds, and pretty significant that we take advantage of it.
Yeah, well, our life, it's not that long. And the psalmist says, Psalm 90 verse 12, we're to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. And I think wisdom would say, hey, we've only got a certain amount of time on this planet. What are we doing with it? And are we fulfilling our mission? And I think there's nothing worse than a person missing their moment. They're born for such a time as this, but they're missing that moment. In fact, I think that's why there's a lot of people who are disillusioned simply because they had an opportunity, but they missed it.
Yeah.
But even if that's been the case, the fact is our God's a redemptive God, and he's able to restore the years. The Bible says the locusts have eaten away. So the question is more about what are we doing now? What are we doing today?
That's what we have. Yeah, exactly. So let me throw a question at you. How about this question? The decisions I make affect me and my world.
Yeah.
So the decisions I make affect just me and my world.
Well, that's probably evidence of an independent attitude. And we talked about the difference between autonomy and independence. And autonomy really is, I have the freedom to choose, but independence is a bad choice. Because as 1 Corinthians highlighted, we talked about this last time, we're part of this body, one body, but we're many parts. And I'm a part, you're a part, other people are a part, but we're only a part, a significant part, an important part, a valuable part, but we're just a part, we're not the whole. And I reckon we miss out on something in life when we think we're the whole. And independence operates like it's the whole. Now, nobody in their right mind thinks they're the whole, but independent attitudes just display that. And when we begin to think, well, it's my life, I'll just do with it what I want, it doesn't affect anyone else, we're a little bit naive. And because the decisions I make, I'm writing on somebody else's heart, but they're also writing on my heart. Your story, my story can't be separated. It's not just my story, it's our story, and it's God's story in the middle of it. And we've got to recognize that. And so, just that attitude, we've got to really resist that. Yeah. And we've got to understand we've got to make choices, but the choice that we need to make is, in whatever situation, can we pass on health? How do we pass on health? You don't need to do anything to pass on disease. Right. We're living in a pandemic right now. Right. That's very evident. You just need to be in close proximity. Thank goodness we don't have to wear masks at this point in time. But you don't have to do anything to pass on disease. But you have to be intentional. You have to make an intentional decision to pass on health. You don't get nervous when somebody healthy coughs or breathes. Yeah. Well, they breathe. Yeah. But if you're going to do something good in this world, it comes from actually an intentional decision that goes against some of your selfish desires to say, hey, I'm going to make a difference in my world, and I'm going to make sure that my life counts. Not just for what I can get out of it, but how I can serve and bless other people.
And I think in the positive way, you can only pass on what you're first in possession of, right? You can, you can pass on a lot of stuff. We can pass on bad attitudes. We can pass, like I say, unhealthy things, but also how
we deal with problems.
Yeah, exactly.
That's often modeled by parents.
Our kids will pick that up as well, right? Yeah, exactly.
My kids' view on marriage is by how Kathy and I decide how we choose to live out.
Deal with situations. And don't get me started about patience. I mean, that's a big one that I'm working through a lot of the time, because you get a lot of opportunities to outwork that in life as well. Yep. Let me give you another question. How about this one? If it doesn't benefit me in my world, I dismiss it. So this is a big one, because again, if it's, you can hear a lot of people say, cool, that's in another part of the world, that's nothing to do with me. Government makes a decision that affects other people but not me, I can just dismiss it. I don't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah. And it's easy to get numb to all the needs in the world. In fact, we get overwhelmed so much by the need around us that almost we block our ears, shut our eyes, because it's like, what can we do? We actually feel paralyzed.
Well, even some advertisements say, they'll say when they're doing those ads where they're quite graphic, people just switch off and they just change the channel. So they've figured out that actually people do become numb to some of those. Yeah, and we feel paralyzed. It's like, what can we do?
And I love the miracle of the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, where Jesus used 5 loaves and 2 fish to feed a multitude. Initially, the disciples were overwhelmed with the need. You feed them.
Well, they were hungry themselves. How are we going to do this?
Yeah, but you feed them, and it's like, how the heck are we going to do that? That will cost more than a year's wages. There's all these things. But more that whole story, the miracle of that story was not about just the need. God wanted to overwhelm the disciples with the need that was in front of them. But secondly, he wanted to display his capacity to meet that need with what was in their hand. And, if we look at what's in our hand correctly, it has the ability to multiply and impact not just tens, not 20s, but hundreds, if not thousands of people. And, that's looking at it from a kingdom perspective. But so many of us with our independent attitude is like, well, it doesn't benefit me, it doesn't affect my world, it doesn't matter, I'll just dismiss it. And it's like the photo. You go through photos, scrolling through, and you often scroll through and then you stop at the one you're in. Ain't that true? You don't just stop at it, you blow it up and you see how you look in it.
Yeah.
And the chances are, if you look good in it, it's a good photo.
Yeah.
But if you don't look good in it, it doesn't matter how everybody else looks.
Right. Yeah.
It's a bad photo. Untag me, delete it. And that's our viewpoint. So often we're viewing our world through how we look in a picture rather than how other people look in that picture. And I think an independent attitude tends to do that rather than recognizing the whole.
But cool thought, and a bit of a side thought on that. That's a neat idea that we've all got a gift and a grace in our life that somebody else could be the beneficiary of if we decide to kind of release it for that purpose, eh?
Yeah.
Like it's actually, we've got, and I think sometimes we can feel like, oh, what have I got to add to the kingdom? How can I add whatever I've got to this workplace? I never feel qualified. I don't know what I would say.
Yeah.
But the Bible's pretty clear that he'll give you the words at the right time, but he's often looking for us to engage faith in those environments, right?
And just enlarge the circle of
Yeah.
our life. We often say, draw a bigger circle. So who's in your circle right now?
Yeah.
In fact, for some people, it's just them.
Yeah.
And it's not a circle, it's just an outline of their own body.
Yeah, right.
Which is normally where you find those at crash scenes.
Yeah.
Which means you're dead.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of dead Christians because their life's all about them and their need.
Yeah.
And we need to draw a big enough circle that it includes the masses.
Yeah.
And I think when you include the people in your community, the people in your world, in your circle, your mindset shifts. It changes.
Yeah.
And this is where, I've got a choice to make. I can just live for myself, or I can use my autonomy and make a choice that my life is actually to serve others. Like Jesus said himself, he said, I didn't come to be served, but to serve and give my life as a ransom for many. And that's the decision we get to make.
And I think for a lot of people,
it's a rewarding decision.
It is a rewarding decision.
Yeah.
It's a life well lived, eh? When you, I think Bill Johnson might have said that thought that the only thing you get to take into the eternity is the deposits that you get to make in people's lives, which I love. You can't take your stuff with you, but the deposits that we get to make in people's lives are really significant. And I often think I think it was in Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People book. Yeah. One of the habits was start with the end in mind. You imagine yourself at your kind of funeral. What would people say about you at your funeral? What would they say? And you can actually kind of live that kind of life now. Yeah. Like if people aren't saying anything, you can choose to change that now. You can choose to live a life that's autonomous but not independent, right? Yeah. Yeah. And we're responsible for the seeds that we sow. Absolutely, yeah. Not necessarily the harvest. He's the Lord of the harvest, but the seeds we sow. Yeah. And so that's important. Okay, third question. These are good. You're doing really well. Oh, thanks. Thank you. Hope it's helping someone. I think it's helping a lot of people. How do I get the benefits of the whole without the cost, without counting a cost? Well, they're not necessary questions as much as the statements that represent an independent spirit. It's like a lot of people, want to live in places that they couldn't afford to maintain. It's like, we want to live in the promised land. Yeah. We want milk and honey, but we want it in the delivery method of manna. Yeah, right. So, in the wilderness, the Israelites' shoes never wore out, their clothes never wore out. God provided for them, miracles, breakfast right outside their tent door every morning. People think this is amazing. Amazing. But it's spoon-fed. It's the wilderness. Yeah. And what they don't realize about the promised land, which God wants to take each and every one of us into, is a land of responsibility. You got to go out and fight for your inheritance, and you got to go out and gather your food. And I think today a lot of people want the benefits without the cost. It's like, what's the minimum I can do? It's like, how little can I do and still be called, still be called a Christian and still be called, still be part of this. Yeah. Which in a way is a wrong mindset. It's the wrong question, isn't it? Yeah, it's the wrong question. What can I do? It's like, it's the wrong question. Yeah. It shouldn't even be, Well, that's operating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is about the edges, it's about the law. Yep. Jesus, the tree of life, is all about the center. And too many times we're asking the wrong question, as you say. It's just a dumb question. Yeah. How little can I do? Yeah. It's like, when you know who Jesus is,
you want to be all in.
Yeah.
You want to be all in, and that's how the kingdom works. Is when you surrender your life, give it over to Jesus. It's then and there you find life. But too many people are trying to save their life or protect their life, and they don't realize in doing so they're actually losing their life.
Yeah.
And I think the danger is a lot of people want the benefits of the kingdom, but they don't want to live by kingdom principle, or they want to play on the weekend. But they don't want to turn up to trainings during the week.
Yeah.
We know even in junior sports teams that doesn't wash.
No, it doesn't.
But how often does that attitude come into the kingdom? It's like, well, I want to do the minimum and I want to be part of this and I want the benefits of it, but I actually don't want the responsibility or the cost of this. And I think that's where we need to see a whole lot of people just grow immature, because what immaturity doesn't understand is immaturity doesn't understand full cost. Everything in life costs, but immaturity doesn't understand it. That's why you never see your kids going around your house switching off lights.
Don't get me started. Oh my gosh.
Because they just expect light on.
There'll always be power.
There'll always be power, and they don't realize that there's a bill that you have to pay. Sometimes I wonder whether they think God strikes the house with lightning and there's electricity for a month. It just happens supernaturally. And it's like kids go to your fridge and just expect there to be food. And a lot of people in church just expect things to happen without understanding the cost. You don't plant churches around the world. You don't grow leaders. You don't do anything without some level of cost. And in the end, the benefits outweigh the cost. Sacrifice in the kingdom doesn't mean less. So many people, if I sacrifice, I'm going without. Sacrifice in the kingdom doesn't mean less. It actually means more. God releases more back into our life, and but a lot of people aren't prepared to go there, and I think that's the challenge is, there's huge benefits.
But it's often inconvenient, isn't it? It doesn't come at the right time. It doesn't come in the right place. You can often think in life, and I guess I used to think this many years ago, when I got to this place, then I'll give God my all. I can remember, I think it was your dad challenging me to go, well, actually,
that place don't exist.
And he told me in no uncertain terms, I don't know if it's going to work like that. And I guess you realise maybe that's a maturity thing. You realise actually there's going to be no perfect time to do this. There's no, the times now. We've got a world that desperately needs to know the reality of Jesus, and we've got a great opportunity to be able to share that with people. And so I think the challenge is not to confuse those two terms, autonomy and independence. Yes, we have autonomy, but with our autonomy, we choose not to be independent. We choose to lay down our life, not hold on to our rights. As we have choice, but our choice is not independence. And choosing to give our life up is a good way to live. And that's probably enough for episode 7 of Off Script with Sam Monk. Again, we hope this has been helpful and useful to you. If it is, you can share it, you can like it, you can tell other people about it, you can subscribe to all the various channels that it's on as well. Otherwise, thanks, Sam. Been cool.
Thank you.
We'll see you for episode 8 of Off Script with Sam Monk. Again, significant ministry flow, some significant relationship, and that's important to us, and we pray that's important to you. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Off Script with Sam Monk. If you found this podcast helpful, make sure you pass it on. We love your feedback, so drop us a line about what topics you'd like to hear about on Off Script with Sam Monk.